Hello and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. I am Halli Casser-Jayne, and joining me for the hour on the Halli Casser-Jayne Show is my partner in politics, former White House correspondent Matthew Cooper. This week, it's Welcome to the Schiff Show, and oh, what a show Chairman Adam Schiff produced, the first of the open impeachment hearings, a testament to be careful what you wish for, Republicans. Get out the popcorn, have a beer on us. It's drama, comedy, horror, political intrigue. Let's get started. We begin. Hi there, Matthew. The two of us are running around like two chickens without a head, busy as beavers, and you are lovely to fit us in over here on your crazy schedule, and I'm happy to, as always, to have you here. And what a week to talk to you. Oh my God, I couldn't wait. I just couldn't wait. I talked to everybody else.
It's a terrific week.
I'll tell you what, and I talk to everybody, but you're my favorite, so I always love to talk with you.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome, and particularly after yesterday, the impeachment hearings have begun. By the way, 13.1 million viewers. I couldn't get stats on other impeachments, but I did. 20 million watched Anita Hill and Kavanaugh.
Okay.
So 13.1, they're going to have to build it up. That's kind of like where it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm going to handle this show differently than some of the other shows we've done, because I have a lot of people writing me and saying to me, why does everybody assume we understand what's going on? We don't watch it like you do. We're not on the Twitterverse the way you are. So I think that we should do some explaining, right? A little bit. But before
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. So, but before we do, I want to get your overall take on what you saw yesterday in the opening day of the hearings. What was your overall take?
Well, my impression, and we can go into the backstory if you like about what's at issue here. But
I think we'll do that after I just get your original thing, and then we'll do the backstory.
Yeah. I thought the Democrats did a good job of kind of laying out their case, and their witnesses supported their case against Trump that he improperly used his authority for personal gain, that he adjusted the foreign policy of the U.S. in order to discredit a political opponent, Joe Biden. And I think the witnesses confirmed that. The Democrats underscored that. It kind of left the Republicans scrambling a bit, either saying that's not really what the president meant, or it really was someone else who was interfering in our election, or what was Hunter Biden doing. They had a lot of kind of different ideas they were peddling. They could have gone with one simple one, like this may not have been good, but it's not impeachable. That might have been the easiest one to go with. But instead, they were kind of all over the map. That was my impression of day one.
So I had a similar impression. I thought that they were, in some ways, really ill-prepared. And maybe that was part of their tactic. They were throwing mud, Matt. They were trying to see what was going to stick. Let's try this one. Let's go this one. And then let's see what the public responds to whatever it is that we're throwing out. But to me, they looked somewhat disorganized, and I'm going to get into that a little later, because like one of the choices that they made that I'm stuck on is that wacky attorney they had. But let's save him. Here's what I right?
Not super impressive.
Yeah, right. So here's what I want to review. I'm gonna just throw this out. I want to go back to February 2019. Congress approved 391 million in military aid to Ukraine to help them fight the aggression from our enemy and theirs, Russia. This is the timeline, right, folks. Tell me if I have this right, Matt. February 28th, Trump told McConnell that the money would be given immediately, except that it wasn't. And in fact, on July 25th, Trump spoke by phone with Ukraine's newly elected President Zelensky, of which we now have this so-called transcript readout that Trump put out, in which he says the call was perfect, except right there it says, and I quote, "Do us a favor, comma, though," right? And then there's this but that comes, because then on September 9th, the Department of Justice informed the House that there was a whistleblower.
Right.
Okay. And then 2 days later, 2 days later, going back from February 28th to 2 days later, September 11th, Trump finally released the aid, by the way, which some say was illegally held because it was money that was earmarked from the Congress, and he didn't have control over that, so to speak. And that was 170 days later. That's where we are. I wanted to put that out there. Is there anything you want to add to that so people understand what this is really all about?
Yeah, no, I think those are basic set of facts. The only thing I would add is it's not just that Congress approved it; it's that Trump signed it. It was Trump's policy too to give them the money.
Right.
It wasn't just something that Congress chose out of the blue. So
the whole thing is crazy, right? I mean, there it is. So, here's one of the things that. Well, go ahead. Go, Speedy, go.
I think it's seditious, but it's not crazy. He was clearly believed that if he could get Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden, who had business dealings in Ukraine, that would help him politically. So
let me tell you why I use the word crazy.
Yeah,
I use the word crazy because this all happened. Mueller report. He knew he got away with murder on that. And this actually took place, he did this deed just a couple of days later. It was
right. No, that's when he made the phone call.
Right. That's a crazy man.
Although, as you know, the money was held before that. But yes, your point remains.
So, I mean, there is a crazy, dangerous, walk on the wild side.
I just think the macro thing here is that I think he's really incapable of, he being Trump,
right,
is really incapable of separating personal interest from the national interest. And so whether it's, accepting all this money at his hotels or not wanting to disclose his taxes or sort of, steering foreign policy to his reelection, I think he's really, or, screwing around with the charity monies, which they just paid a big fine on, I think he's really sort of pathologically incapable of separating the national interest and his personal interest.
There's there's such a thing as a criminal mind, and I think he is a rich man with a criminal mind. If you're a poor man with a criminal mind, you go to jail. But if you're a rich man, you can play the game for a long time until they finally catch you. When they catch you, it's bad. But first, they got to catch you.
I feel like it's almost more sort of Freudian than that. He's just kind of been taught, by his father and from the beginning, you win, they lose, take what you can. You're either a winner or a loser.
I would say,
and it's not even I don't think he even really feels like he's crossing a moral threshold or is even deviously planning a criminal plot. I think for him, it's kind of out in the open.
I think that he is a sociopath personally, and certainly is a narcissist. And those people don't have, Matt, they don't feel for anything other than for themselves. So, I mean, that's kind of built into the cake with this dude. But, I think it's all the above. I think that's why you see people like George Conway and so many of the never Trumpers. They're always going at it from a psychological point of view because they get it. They've been around these kind of people for a long time, and I think it's important to say it is all the above because he's also clever. There's no question about that, and nobody should throw that away, which is certainly going to play into whatever happens to him out of this impeachment thing. I want to go back to something else here. I want to go back to, this whole thing about, this was all about, him being afraid of Joe Biden, which I find amusing now because the Democrats are doing everything they can to kill Joe Biden. Trump never needed to even go through all of this because the Democrats are doing it for him. But I want to go back to the whistleblower. And talk to me about whistleblowers and how, as in a country, we've always treated them and what the law is here.
Well, a whole set of laws at the federal level and at the state level have grown up to try to protect people who are willing to, blow the whistle on malfeasance. And so there's a whole system set up so it protects their jobs and they can, offer their what they think is malfeasance confidentially. And there's a whole system for how to deal with it. And that's what this person from the intelligence community, man or woman, we don't know, did. So, one of the things you get under the law is you get confidentiality and you get anonymity when you do this to protect against reprisals. So all these efforts by Trump and the Republicans to out the whistleblowers in contradiction of federal law.
And of everything this country has stood for. I want to make that clear because that's always kind of been a line. And we've always had that option for people to come forward. Take that away, that's a bad thing as far as I'm concerned. But you're right about one thing. I mean, the Republicans, first of all, they have outed this guy. I mean, if you're online, you can find out more or less. I mean, it's not been confirmed it's him, but it certainly looks like it's him. And Molly Hemingway for the Federalist, who was a Fox News paid contributor, actually said the name on air and suffered no consequences, even though Fox, the way, said that we're not going to out the person. So there's that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's just crazy as hell with all of this. But I wanted to bring that up. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up was quid pro quo. Ad nauseum, right. Quid pro quo. A Latin phrase translates as favor for a favor. In my language, it's called a bribe. Let's talk about that a little bit, because that's at the crux of all of this. Anything you need to say on that?
Right. Well, I think the Constitution is specific about bribery, and the founders seem to have used it in its kind of broadest meaning of anything for personal gain, not necessarily you give money to someone and they do something. One of the Republican defenses this week has been, hey, the Ukrainians got the money, so what's the big deal? But, an attempted murder or an attempted rape is still a crime, even if it's not, even if you don't get away with it or execute it, it doesn't make it any less of a crime.
Intent. So, we're talking intent.
Yeah, intent and actions that prove intent and that are, just because you get foiled at the last minute because of the whistleblower. I mean, it's really something.
It really is something, yeah.
I really am at a loss to understand why they don't just go with the simplest explanation. The simplest case is the best case, which is, he did this. It's probably not great that he did it, but you know what? It's not impeachable. It's a phone call. He had some conversations. He held up some money for a while. That's not what we overturn elections about. I mean, that would sort of be, it would pass the laugh test.
Well,
other than this, all this other mishigas.
I agree with you on one hand. And on the other hand, I say high crimes and misdemeanors and how clear it was written about bribery, I mean, this is just like something that's just not acceptable on any level, in a court of law of regular jurisprudence, but also obviously as far as if you go back and you read, with the founding fathers, we were thinking about the time that they were setting impeachment up and stuff. So I do think that and I think it's full of crap because the fact of the matter is we all know he did it. And that's the thing about this, Matt. I keep going back to this in his own words, not once, but twice,
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, this would be like Watergate if the Nixon tapes came out at the beginning.
Well, that's
and then you work backwards. It's just kind of you've got him saying it. I mean,
and he and everybody else.
I don't see any. Yeah, I mean, there's really no other way to read that account of the phone call that the White House itself put out.
Now he says he's going to release a second phone call. I can't wait to see how this was documented. But, this could all be solved in a hurry, couldn't it? First of all, there is that server. Let's go to the server because, Hillary Clinton would want us to go to the server.
Right, back to this. Right.
Why?
Right, they hid this thing away.
And who knows what else is on that server? That's my point. Why isn't that subpoenaed?
Well, yeah, one has to assume that, this is not the only untoward phone call the president has made.
Well, right. And there may be more to this phone call than we know about.
And there may be more to this one.
It's like the Democrats are a little weird. Let me just say this before. The Democrats are a little weird because they're all in and yet there are things that I, as just a little, whatever it is that I do, I would do differently. I would, they're not going for jugular. Now, maybe they're getting going towards the jugular. Now, maybe they're going to just go down the road, in 2 months after all the hearings in the public, then they're going to go for the jugular. I don't know. But it would just seem to me that there are some things that are obvious. And one of them would be, kick this guy in the butt and demand to get that server. That would
Right.
piss him off royally. Forgive me, but it would.
Yeah, I mean, they can demand it, but then you're in court forever.
Listen, therein lies, though, one of their great impeachment articles, which is going to be there anyway.
No, what did you think of the witnesses?
Okay, so what a cast of characters. Oh, my God. I thought that Ambassador Taylor was brilliant. Frankly, of all the, I've sat in a lot of court cases in my time as a reporter, right? He was brilliant. He was unflappable. He knew exactly how to respond in a second. He never once got over his skis. He saw the traps. He just smiled and he went about his business. I thought he was extraordinary. I don't know what you thought, but he was amazing.
Yeah,
and Ken, I thought with his bow tie and his perfectly matching pocket square, which I adored, and I'm not a bow tie girl. They made a good team because with one, they threw it at each other when they knew the other one would. They just knew it was like a marriage. They knew who was going to have the better answer. So I thought that they gave, forgive the word, impeachable testimony, and that if this is who they have all the way down the line, and after they interviewed everybody and they were so careful about who they brought in, and geez, and can I throw out an applause to Adam Schiff, who I thought ran just a really, really, really good affair, if you will. Anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought they were good witnesses. I thought they were clear. I don't think they got too stuck in the weeds. I think they were, polite but firm, which is kind of the tone you want in those things. They didn't kind of take the bait when Republicans tried to bait them. And no, I thought they did quite well. I have mixed feelings about their surprise. They clearly held the big surprise till the first day.
All right, so let's talk about that because that's next on my list. Go for it.
Well, Taylor, our acting ambassador to Ukraine, said that that one of his aides was having lunch with Sondland, who's our ambassador to the EU, while Sondland was in Ukraine, and that Sondland had a phone call with Trump from the restaurant in Ukraine, and that Trump was so loud on the phone that this aide could hear it, and Trump was going on and on about how we have to get Ukraine to, investigate. It was a pretty good surprise. It's sort of like it's so careless in terms of national security to be doing a unsecured phone call with the president off a cell phone. And particularly after the Hillary Clinton accusation. Yeah, from anywhere in the former Soviet Union.
But it's not the first time he's done that. He's done that down here at Mar-a-Lago.
You really want to lock everything he does down, and that did not seem like they were doing that.
But the surprise itself.
That was pretty good, and you can totally picture it, right? You can totally picture Trump being loud enough. On the other hand, did it add a lot to what we don't?
Yes, I think it does. And let me tell you what I think it was interesting. First of all, there's a second person who's come forward. David Holmes is the first one, and he's going to testify, I guess, Friday behind closed doors or something. And now a second person has come through. His name is Surya Jananti. That's all I know his name. And that, I think AP had it or Reuters have it. So there's a second guy. It gets to this, Matt. It gets to hearsay. And let's talk hearsay. Because one of the things that those dudes were throwing around, the dudes being the Republicans, was it's all hearsay. Now, we've talked about it a little bit. We didn't name it as hearsay, but it's all hearsay. Like if somebody dies and is murdered, and there's somebody who gets arrested for the murder because they found something, whatever, and they need a witness, it's never going to be the first guy who's dead because he's dead. So it's hearsay.
Right.
For anybody else. So I heard this, I heard that, or I'm aware. So hearsay is how 95% of cases are solved, by the way.
But there's but here they're not reliant on hearsay. They have
facts.
The account of the phone call from Trump himself.
Right.
And they have Vindman.
Right.
The Ukrainian-born army official who was on the call.
Right.
And raised hell about it. So it's not like they were relying on fourth-hand
But it is the word.
He said.
They like that word hearsay, and they're throwing that word hearsay out. Now, for the public, because remember, there are two sides to this, right? There's the...
Sure.
I mean, there's the Republicans who are speaking to, the audience of one, Trump, and maybe his followers. And then there's, the Democrats who are trying to get everybody to listen to them. And so, one thing that the Republicans are very good at, and I'm sure it comes from Trump's talking points, are, he likes these one word kind of clever little hearsay, and they just say it over and over and over again. So this is right in people's faces. You know what? When you do that kind of thing in a court of law, Matt, the jury feels like they're a part of the discovery. So I do think
that's true.
I do think it was an important thing to do. They knew that they were going to do it. It was orchestrated. And it was done effectively, I think.
Yeah, sure. And if they followed it up with this aide who overheard it, and then with Sondland who heard it,
right.
Sure, they can flesh it out even more.
Exactly. And so I think
it will.
Go ahead.
No, I can look. It adds to what it adds to the case.
Yeah. So I thought that I thought that was amazing, and you saw the Republicans' faces because the cameras went right to their face. They were like, "Wait a minute, we don't know."
Yeah.
They flipped their cork. They did that on day one. It tells me they've got more. They're not going to blow their whole cord
on day one. I think you'd want to space it out. Yeah, I mean, it is a show, and you're trying to put on you're trying to educate the public, and you want to add new things, and it would make sense to hold some stuff back.
A couple of things I want to ask you.
It's all pretty wild.
Yeah. So,
can I just?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you go.
Well, I was just going to say, to compare it to Watergate, there really was many months when you couldn't be totally certain if Nixon knew about the cover-up or if he knew about the original break-in. I mean, you didn't really know for a long time, from June 72 until April 73, or maybe it was even later, July 73, when John Dean testified and they revealed the tape recorder, and people started to give accounts that Nixon knew, people who directly dealt with Nixon. I mean, we know Trump was involved, from day one of this Ukraine business. So that's it's
very weird. You know what? It's very, very weird because really they have him. And that's what's so weird. And everybody knows that they have them. I mean, everybody who counts, because of the people who have to vote for this, the Republicans and the Democrats,
right.
They know they got Trump. And so it's kind of a strange situation that we have. This whole, if this were regular people, the guy would have been arrested and hauled off to jail months ago for bribery. Yeah. But he's the president of the United States. That's what's so weird about this. That to me is
right.
Is very strange. And
of course it is all part of the Russian narrative. I mean, it is of a piece with what Mueller found.
Well, and that's the other thing. I think.
I mean, this wasn't aid to Nigeria, and, which would. I mean, if all this applied to a totally different part of the world, it would be bad. But.
Jeez.
We're not talking about.
No, we're talking about our arch enemy. Besides,
we're right in the middle of it.
So you brought up Watergate. You know what John Dean said? He said the first day of testimony at Trump hearings yielded more damaging testimony than all of Watergate. That's what Mr. John Dean, who went to jail.
I think that's true.
I do think it's true, and that's why I think some of this.
No, absolutely.
I feel like I'm this is the Twilight Zone, though, because. That we're even disputing any of this, it is beyond imagination. Now, I was just a babe at the time of Watergate, and so were you. I'm curious as to just how fractious things were in the two parties at that time.
Well, I've studied this a lot.
Go ahead.
Written about it a lot. It was pretty bad for a while. I mean, the Republicans were working with the White House in 73 on the Senate Watergate Committee. Fred Thompson was always on the phone to the White House counsel. Fred Thompson, who would later be a U.S. Senator. So they were pretty divided. And that famous question that Howard Baker, the ranking Republican on the committee, asked John Dean, what did the president know and when did he know it? It's the mythology of that question has been turned around. It was not a Republican question aimed at Nixon. It was aimed at undercutting Dean. It was aimed at showing that Dean didn't really know the answer to those things. and couldn't say conclusively. And so things were not, it wasn't all, kumbaya on that committee until things got pretty far along. And then the Republicans, and this was to their great credit, then they kind of realized this is, we're dealing with some serious crimes here.
So, and what about bipartisanship or partisanship at that juncture in American history?
Well, I think there was still a lot of partisanship, but there were some smart decisions made. For instance, the original resolution that called for the creation of a Senate Watergate committee was put up by Ted Kennedy, and traditionally the person who does the resolution gets the committee. But the Democratic majority leader of the Senate, Mike Mansfield, knew that Kennedy would be just way too partisan to run the hearing. So he picked Sam Ervin, who was a former segregationist from North Carolina, a World War I veteran, who had never had any interest in trying to be president, and but who was also really smart. He had a big kind of country accent and acted all country cornpone, but he was a Harvard lawyer, and he'd been tough on Joe McCarthy, and he was kind of the perfect choice because no one was going to call him a great big liberal. And so there was kind of, there was a lot of division, but both sides kind of were a little more wily than they are now.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. So
it's interesting. But
let's talk, because you describe a Sam Ervin, and what do we have? We have Jim Jordan.
Ervin would be the analogy to Schiff. But you see, they had Howard Baker.
But they had the Howard Baker, who was like, my love of politics in a way. I years later, I had a huge crush on him, I have to tell you. Just, I loved him. I loved his mind, loved his style. Just, I got into a whole Howard Baker phrase in my earlier when I.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. He was amazing to me. But that being said, look at the characters that we're talking about now, because Jim Jordan without his jacket,
Yeah, I mean, you've got some people who seem a little. I mean, in the case of Nunes
small.
and Jordan, a little mentally unstable.
They seem small to me. That's what they don't seem stately. They don't seem.
No, they seem slightly deranged.
Well,
I
right.
don't mean that to be mean, but they just seem like
it's not. They're not right. They're not.
There's something not right there. And I wouldn't say that of Meadows, who's just as partisan.
Well, I don't know. I think Meadows is passive aggressive nuts. That's
but I mean, he at least can, form a sentence.
Yeah, but there's definitely something not right with Nunes. You are listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern at hallicasserjayne.com, and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device too. Just say the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at the Halli CJ Show.
And look, by the time you got to the impeachment committee, the House impeachment committee during Watergate in 1974, most of the Republicans voted against impeachment, but about a third voted for it. And unfortunately, I don't think you'll ever see a third of Republicans vote, to even consider voting for impeachment against Trump.
I don't. Will there be one?
Well, I think that's the question in the Senate, right? Does Susan Collins?
Well, that's later. That's later. I'm talking about to vote to impeach. I mean, are you going to get anybody?
Yeah, in the House. I don't see anyone. I don't think we'll
so
hurt.
Sad. I
mean, why would someone not vote for the inquiry? They all voted against the inquiry. So why would you say it's not even worth an inquiry and then say, it's worth impeachment?
Well, let's talk about that for a second.
I guess you could.
Yeah, well, listen, the fact that they all stuck together had to do with Trump's control. But, there's a point about impeachment that I think needs to be raised here, and that is impeachment comes because a president has lost his power.
Yes.
Okay? It's the ultimate, I screwed up and I blew it. Now, in this case, he didn't think he was going to blow it with the Dems. He blew it. Nancy, we've discussed ad nauseum, reluctantly came down the impeachment path. But there you go. So he's at a low point in his power. That makes me question a couple of things. So why are the Republicans sticking with him? They got their judges. It's past getting the judge. The only judges they can get at this point is maybe the Supreme Court. And, that's going to be tough now, even if, you lose it now. I mean, it's going to be a weird deal. But why are they still sticking with him? It can't help them, because even if it gets them back in, they will be so tainted, I think.
Well, I think the rational bet, and we've talked about this before, is the thing they fear most is a primary challenge.
Well, I get that, but
he's still very popular with Republicans. Nobody wants to risk that. And so,
what's it going to take? What's it going to
be
take?
With him than not with him?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, after a while, they start to look completely like foolish when the goods start to really come out, which they're not.
Well,
out yet.
I at this point, I don't know. I mean, he and Putin performing an abortion in the West Wing. I don't know what would take.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
I don't know what would shake the faith at this point.
I don't know. But I don't know. And we go around that one for forever, and we're guessing. Here's a question for you: missing in action, the Secretary of State. Hello, he's got his people are all testifying in Congress.
Yeah. Well,
where are you? He's hiding.
He's the one who brought Taylor in,
but he's hiding.
Yeah, well, he's not. But he's not. Yeah, he's not. He's not out front, but he's not. He's certainly not undercutting the boss at all. How about that Nikki Haley, though?
Well, we got that's on my list. You want to go there now? Let's go. Let's have a sidebar. Let's go to Nikki Haley right now, because honest to God, that to me was really.
She's all in.
I'm sending her a present. I'm sending her knee pads. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh God, that's so sexist.
Wait a minute. No. I say that to Lindsey Graham too. I tweet to him all the time.
Okay. Would you ever say that to a heterosexual man?
Yeah, you could say it. Yeah, you could. But I mean, what's wrong with her?
I know where
First of all, what a stupid thing for her to do. What a dumb thing for her to do.
Really? Is it stupid? I don't know.
I do think it's stupid. Let me tell you why I think it's stupid. Here's why I think it's stupid. First of all, she had a lot of goodwill. She had a lot of goodwill from women. Women may not agree with her, Democratic women or women in the center like me, but she had my respect, because she seemed to know how to play, and she got out of, dealing with him on a day-to-day basis, as ambassador of the UN, just in the nick of time. She quieted down. She didn't make a whole lot I thought she was going to go off into the sunset.
She wasn't a grifter.
Right. And then, hello. And I'm sorry. A woman. It's worse when a woman sticks with him than a man, because of his attitude towards women, for everything he has hurt women, and refuses to apologize. A man accused of rape and, this and that and the other thing.
Well, but she knew all that when she went in.
But she always walked the line, and that's okay. She's a politician, and she didn't. And I said to somebody the other day, she wrote this book a while ago. This book has been in, this wasn't published yesterday. I mean, she wrote it. It was in, had to go to print and had to be edited, whatever. She could have, she could have, when she saw impeachment, which she didn't know this was going on to what it was at the time she turned it over to, the publisher. And she went with it, and she went with it full bore. And I am sorry. Yeah, she as far as
she's pissed
done.
On Tillerson and
she's done.
Kelly for not being loyal enough.
Right. She's done as far as and I think she is going to be
done. But you have to ask yourself, why
she's
are all
done
these
with
Republicans making this calculation?
Say what? Why are all of these?
Why do you think all these Republicans are making this calculation? Trump?
It's possible they could be wrong. It's possible they could be wrong. Yep. Listen, what happens when he's gone? And here's the thing: he will be gone. He may not be gone tomorrow, and he may not be gone for 4 years. Oh, God help us! But he will be gone, and it's only gonna get worse. It's only gonna get worse. Because he's gonna get empowered if he gets reelected, and then it's gonna be, pathetic. But the polls don't show in key areas that he has to get elected, that he's electable. I'm sorry, they don't. So that's it. But I just think it's more than just that, Matt. What about your own dignity and your own legacy? These people don't care what history does to them. What's that?
Well, I hear you. I mean, I don't.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, your grandchildren carry your baggage, and your great grandchildren. It's like poor old Nixon's. The daughters. Hello, my father.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm just, but look, his legacy will have been really transforming this party.
But not forever.
Unless it snaps back to what it was. But I'm not sure it will.
Well, I don't think it snaps back, but I do think it will morph. Listen, this country has two choices, Matt. Okay? Here, you bring that up, you have to go here with it. Whatever happens, either you go down this road and there is absolutely no respect for the Constitution. We're already sounding like a banana republic. This whole, the whole way all of this is played is just like, it might just be Salvador in 82, where you stick by the leader, no matter how many people he kills and how many children. Yeah. Okay. That's what we have here. Now, at some point, it's going to be, okay, here's the choice. Either you stick with this and you go down this road and that's the end of the day, and goodbye Republic. Goodbye, American Constitution, because you cannot have this lawlessness, Matt, and this lack of integrity and moral value and turpitude, and have the United States of America. It's impossible. The two can't be one or the other. So at some point, there will be a decision made. I don't think that that's crazy. I think that that's what we're coming to, and it's I'd like to think Americans step up to the plate and go, okay, enough is enough. Maybe not.
I don't know. We're going to find out.
I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on it. Could be. There you are. But I do think that's how important this is now. Let me throw in another couple of names. John Bolton has kind of like thrown it out that he may be willing to testify, but I'm not going to tell you whether it's good.
Well, he's playing an interesting game,
isn't he?
This is someone who's thought about running for president. He's super conservative. He's just Jesse Helms' protege. He's not really a neocon. He's more of a paleocon. And his first job in politics was working for Spiro Agnew.
Oh, God.
He doesn't want to look like he's gleefully going to testify before the Democrats. He's going to go through every hoop in court, and they're going to have to make him do it. But then he'll probably do it. And
but is he a wild
he'll
card?
Say the same thing. I think he'll say the same things in his book that he seems to be saying, which is like Trump was reckless, and we should have bombed Iran, and Obama's the worst president ever. And I mean, I think he has a whole litany of complaints with a lot of people. By the time he left the Bush administration, he was fighting with Cheney, he was fighting with Condi Rice, he was fighting with Hadley.
Well, he's a hothead, no question.
He's a hothead. Yeah, he's a pissy guy, and he thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and he I think still wants to, keep the respect of the conservatives. So I think Do
you think he would turn? Do you think he would do him in? Do you think he would do Trump in? Educated guess.
Well, I think he said in this speech before hedge fund managers the other day, they thought Trump was,
Yeah, but that's not the same going before an impeachment committee and saying, this is what the guy did. I mean,
I think if the courts make him do it, he's going to go do it.
And the Democrats say that they're not.
And if he doesn't do it there, he's going to do it. He'll
do it in the book. But here's the deal: the Democrats have said that they're not going after these guys. They're either going to come in on their own. They're not going to slow it down. In other words, because they're hysterical that this is going to go on too long.
Right.
It's going to hit the whatever. I think they're wrong about that. And by the way, that's something that is like percolating at the bottom of all of this, and that is a lot of Democrats are starting to say maybe we shouldn't rush this exactly. They were a little.
Well, they can say that. Yeah. I mean, there's merit in that argument.
So there's that. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about somebody who actually wound up to be a talking head on MSNBC, Mr. George Conway, husband of Kellyanne.
Right.
Did you see any of that?
I really did not, to be honest. I've
so now you have to
followed
say
his writings.
Yeah. Now you have to say Halli.
What do I have to say?
You have to say Halli. What did you think?
Halli, what did you think? And how was it?
Okay. So can I tell you what? I was shocked. Here's why I was shocked. First of all, I follow him on Twitter, and I'm engaging with him all the time on Twitter. And he's very funny on Twitter. He's got a very dry sense of humor, and it's kind of clever, and he's clever. And that's him. He was a complete dud as far as I was concerned on MSNBC.
Interesting.
Dud.
I would not have guessed that.
Nobody was more shocked than I. He seemed very, first of all, he's a small man, and they didn't help him by putting him down in the chair. So there's always the optic of it. There was that. But there was also, he just didn't add anything to the, he seemed nervous. He did not add anything to the color at all, and to the dialogue.
Well, that's too bad.
And I thought that was odd.
Well, that's too bad.
But I'd like to see him get a second chance, because maybe if they could warm him up, maybe he would be as cute as he is on Twitter. But I must say, it's not like Mary Madeline and James Carville. It's very weird. It's very weird. I just can't get past the weirdness of it. It's weird.
It's a little weird.
And then Wolf Blitzer had her on, and he made a gaffe. He didn't mean to when he tried to get past it. He said, your problems in your marriage. Well, I don't think this indicates anything about problems in the marriage. Obviously, the marriage is going along just fine. Thank you very much. We're just, we're keeping it between ourselves. But I do think that was kind of, it's weird. It's just.
Well, I mean, James and Mary, they were in on the joke. And
exactly.
It was all sort of part of the shtick. I mean, it was a selling point.
And they interacted with each other all the time.
Yeah, and also politically, he's pretty moderate. She's pretty moderate. There wasn't really.
But they were a pair. They were a pair, and they appeared together.
They were a pair, and they're both kind of stylistically similar. And
right. And these two are not doing that. So anyway, see if you can find some. Go to YouTube or something and find it. I'd like to hear what you have to say about what was going on there. But so while we're talking about that, let me get up to the next thing. Is so the whole hearing is over. Okay. Wait. Can I just make my funny? The Steve Castor, who was the Republicans' attorney, who I thought was just the strangest thing I'd seen in 20 years. I mean, what in the world? There were 5 billion attorneys in this country, and they picked him? I didn't get that one at all. But he reminded me of Joe Pesci and my cousin Vinny.
It was a little. Of course, he won. Of course, Joe Pesci won the case.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, there was that kind of
no, he was definitely seemed a little out of it.
Yeah, it was very odd.
Yeah.
It was extremely odd to watch.
No, he made Trey Gowdy look like Clarence Darrow.
Exactly. I mean, it was really a very weird choice. And on the other hand, you got to give kudos to Goldman, because I thought he was fantastic. I mean, he was right on it.
It was good.
So a couple of things just to clean up. Mick Mulvaney, we're going to have to talk about, and there's him. He's floating around out there, and I just want to throw his name in there. I want to get to Erdogan and the presser that they held the second that it was over. The hearing came to an end.
Right.
And there were a couple. I don't want to go into whole detail on it. It just was. First of all, if you tell me that they didn't shoot Trump up with Valium, honey, I didn't even recognize him. He was talking so slowly. Trump, he was definitely shot up. And there's no question he was on drugs. But that was a very, very strange thing. And here's where I want to go with it, because it was stupid, right? I mean, Trump says Erdogan has a great relationship with the Kurds, who he has displaced, killed.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that was just.
Yes.
What was Rick Scott, junior senator from Florida, doing in on that? I mean, that just gave a lot away to me. A lot. Isn't that odd?
Yeah. I don't have an answer for that.
Rick Scott is right in on all of this, and I'm intrepid writer's hype reporter ought to look at that.
It's pretty crazy.
Well, a story.
I mean, it's just
Go ahead.
I mean, in the course of a few weeks, Trump gives the Turks the green light to invade Syria.
Jesus.
They ethnically cleanse the Kurds. They allow the Russians and the Iranians to take a forward position, as well as Assad's forces. I mean, and then he gives them, a big White House visit and a wet kiss, and half the Ukrainian story is the Ukrainian leader trying to get a White House visit. So he can send a signal to the Russians that U.S. support is steadfast. And Trump is holding that up till the guy, attacks Biden. It's pretty awful.
It really. That's all we'll go with on that for now. But I just needed to throw that. And I wanted to bring up Rick Scott because I want you to go digging around a little bit. There's a story there. We can talk off air. I can give you some more info. There is a story there. I want to go to Lindsey Graham. Miss Lindsey. Getting weirder by the moment. I am sorry. I went back to something that I wrote to a friend at the time who's a Republican who was looking for a candidate. And I said, Lindsey Graham, look at Lindsey. Not something right. I would have. Who is this person? I mean, it's nonsensical at this point. Okay, we've said it 1,000 times, but you got anything more to say on that? Because he is really acting like wrong. He is still a United States senator. He's still going to have to put a vote in on this. There's nothing that's coming out of his mouth that is sane. Nothing. Not even moderately sane. What could have caused
this? Well,
this?
again, this is a guy who was afraid of being primaried from the right. And he got right with Trump, or right with God. And, he got in line. Plus, he's always had the style of maybe puts a little bit of moderation out there. Believes in global warming or votes for
no. I don't believe it.
And then he runs back the other way, full throttle. So, that's part of it too.
You've been in Washington a long time.
And look, he likes being influential and sucking up and being Trump's toadies. Get some time on the golf course.
No. Have you run into? How have you been with him? Have you been in social circumstances with him? Who is he outside of Fox News and the halls of Congress talking to the microphones?
I'm not that much. I'm not the best person to ask.
Because we need to get somebody who we can ask about that. Because I'm sorry, this guy's got a very. He is on the air 24/7. Why doesn't he give that up and go and become a reality TV star? Seriously, because that's what he's turned into. It's just odd. The man is odd. Don't be mad at me, because what I want to say, I won't say. But he's odd. And he's getting odder by the minute. And he's dangerous, Matt. That's where I want. He is dangerous because he is being reckless and he's being vociferous in his recklessness. And he's a man who a lot of people believed in, and he's completely throwing the United States Constitution out. And he's dangerous because he has too much power. One of these small-minded, Jim Jordan types, that's one thing. This is Lindsey Graham. This is not okay. This is unacceptable. I just had to go down my rant on that. So, okay, two people I want to bring up. I want to bring up Nancy Pelosi, who really went after Trump today, big time. I cracked up. Did you see her? She did a funny today. She said,
bribery.
She said, first she said all roads lead to Russia the other day. And then she gave him a little lesson in the word exculpatory. Guys, if you haven't seen it, go to YouTube and find it, because it was almost as good as that day that she was behind him in the well, and she let off on him with that funny look. She gave him exculpatory. If you can exonerate yourself, do come forward. We'd like to hear your thing.
Right.
She just did it in a way that only Nancy can do it. That anyway. But her big quote is Trump bribed Ukraine, makes Nixon's offenses look almost small. Yikes. Okay. Roger Stone's going to the pokey.
Right. Well, the trial continues.
The jury has it.
Yeah. Well, the evidence looks pretty bad for him. I mean, he had, the deputy campaign manager, Rick Gates, a protege of Manafort, testified against him, government witness. And, it's definitely looking like they can prove, perjury for his testimony to the Senate Intelligence Committee.
At some point, somebody's going to say maybe you need to reopen the Barr report. I mean, the Mueller report. There were things that need to go back, and, knowing what you know now about what Roger knew and didn't know, and who he was messing with and what was said. There's something there's more there. I want to go to Bill Barr. But before I go to Bill Barr, I just want to say Deval Patrick came in and he announced his candidacy today. And the reason I want to bring it up is, first of all, he's got so much baggage, it's not even funny. So I think it's weird. But I want to speak to him just in terms of, there's an interesting interplay going on between the Democrats, Deval Patrick, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, and David Axelrod. And David Axelrod is not happy with Biden and has been trashing him on Twitter for months now. And then they bring in Patrick, and he kind of winks his eye and says, yeah, I discussed it with Biden, with Obama. I don't think Obama is in any way for Biden. I think that the wonderful relationship we think they have, maybe it's not so wonderful. Halli going on gut instincts.
Yeah, I mean, Obama talked him out of it last time, helps him bring it in for landing. I mean,
something is not right. Something is not right, or something is off, or something is, let's just put that out there and let's just see what happens with that, because I think that's going to be an incredibly interesting thing. All right. Peter King dropped out, another Republican gone. Bill Clinton, wait today. Said to Trump not to pay attention to impeachment. You were hired to do a job. I think what he was doing was putting the knife in his back and saying, you're not me, you jerk. Okay. Bribery, Matt, abuse of power, obstruction of justice, election tampering, obstruction of Congress. We began this talking about the fact that they got him on the goods.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, not good. Not good. Well, we'll see if the Democrats can bring public opinion along even more. Can they really turn the country and put the pressure on? And I do think they have the goods.
But you're also saying that you don't think having the goods is enough.
I don't think it's enough, because I just think that these Republicans are immovable. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the tides will turn and they'll turn on Trump, but I don't see it happening in this time frame.
What could be a smoking gun?
But I don't know what would be more. We already have a smoking gun.
Well,
how much more smoking can it get?
We're living in strange times. I was telling somebody yesterday that reality TV was never real. Which is, sure. And there's no truth in America anymore since that.
Sure.
Okay, so we're living this grand illusion, right?
Yeah.
That I think.
Right, I understand.
Yeah. So we're also so we're so cynical and hardened. It's like, for people to really get their jollies, I mean, it has to be like something really, really, really huge, I think, to bring to wake people up. I don't know what that is. I just have this weird feeling that Nancy has it.
That Nancy has what?
Has some huge shoe to drop.
Oh, secret.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I wait. I wait. It could be.
It could be. I only say that. I only say that because, boy, it was in a minute she changed her mind, and that just haunts me. It haunts me. I don't care what.
The circumstances did change.
Not in a minute. Not in a minute. For her, it was a minute. It was like somebody. I know it was all the moderates who came forward and said whatever, but it's almost.
Yeah, sure.
I know. Yeah. I just feel like it was like somebody called her or came into her office and said, "Here's what we got."
Right. I understand.
I don't know. So, wise man, what would you like to leave us on as we go off into the sunset.
I would just say, let's see what the Democrats have next. Let's see the next round of this story and what it looks like and what they can unveil to keep this thing moving. And I'm looking forward to that. And the other big thing I think is Bolton going to testify?
Oh, now I remember
and if
what it was.
If he doesn't testify, what's he going to say in his fancy book?
Well, a very, very long time. I know what I have.
Because so far we haven't had a Trumper, someone he appointed, really turn on him. So that I think will start to make a difference.
Okay, I'm glad
we're not.
I'm glad you said that. I'm going to go over on time just a second here because I want to say this to you, Attorney General Barr. I have a prediction. Yes. You know, we've talked about it. He's been globetrotting, trying to dig up dirt on the origins of the Russian investigation.
Right, Inspector Clouseau. Right.
Here he is. I tell you, he is with him, you don't know what's true and what's not true. Now, last week there's a whole report where he would not sell Trump. He would not do what Trump asked him to do, which was to say, there was nothing here. I don't think that had a thing to do with why he wouldn't do it. He's sitting here waiting for the magic moment. He's going to drop a huge bomb, and he's going to get the entire FBI, and that's how he's going to rescue Trump.
Oh, nice.
That's my nice. That's my prediction. That's my prediction.
I like it.
You like it? Yeah. I think we have to explore that more. There's something very ugly coming, and he's going to rescue Trump.
Okay, interesting. Well, I'm looking that I don't discount that.
All right.
See you next time. See ya.
Thank you for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of Resec LLC. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and is available at hallicasserjayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Be sure to visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.